Hey everybody, welcome back. This is part 5 of this teaching. If I'm corrected. And what we're teaching on is believing. We're teaching on believing. This believing teaching goes with this teaching that entitled "Guard Your Heart." That's what the teaching is going to be about. Guard your heart, and see, people got to understand what you believe is who you are. And so we left off talking about how Sarah and Abraham in this situation. Now, I'm going to go back through this verse again. Now, we go to Genesis chapter 16, verse 3. Sarah, Abraham's wife, took Hilgah, the Egyptian, her handmaid, after Abraham had lived 10 years in the land in Canaan, and gave her to Abraham as her husband to be his wife. He went into Hilgah, and she conceived. Now, let's be realistic here. The way the Bible says it and the way it happened in real life is two different ways. The way you're looking at it. It say he went into Hilgah and she conceived. Now what you have to understand is that Abraham ain't just sleep with her one time. See, it wasn't like this ain't no vitro. This ain't no vitro. And you have to understand, he just ain't going to her one time. This is, I'm sleeping with you every night in the tent. I'm coming by you sleeping with you until you show signs of a baby. That's what that is. It say when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised. It was despised in her eyes. Sarah said to Abraham, "This is now. Let me show you something. Remember I told you was Sarah one of those women that was liberal, was able to talk and say her opinion, and Abraham was listening. Well, he already listened to her now. Now let's see. If Sarah was submissive, let's see how she talked to her husband. Sarah said to Abraham, "This is wrong. This is your fault." Huh? That don't sound like a woman that's submissive to me. That sounds like a woman. I think me and Peter have a problem with that. Me and Peter debate on that. Peter said the women should be like the old women like Sarah and them. I personally said that I believe the woman should be like Mary. Mary was the woman that God picked. And that woman did everything God said with no problems. This woman here, Sarah, had all kind of issues. She gave Abraham all kind of hell. Abraham going to go through 13 years of hell and have to get rid of his child all because of Sarah. Him too, but Sarah mostly. And here's this woman coming back at you when it was her ideal. She's coming back at you said to Abraham, "This is wrong. This is your fault. I gave you my handmaid into your bosom." Now she like, I did you a favor. See, I did you a favor. I gave. Now tell me, it's your fault, but it's your fault. But I gave you the handmaid as a wife. But it's your fault because when she conceived, she got pregnant. She got a little big-headed. I wonder why. Maybe because it was like how Sarah was big-headed when God told Abraham, "I'm going to give you a kid," and Abraham was a little bit big-headed himself and laughed or didn't believe. And it's kind of funny how Sarah talk Abraham into not listening to God. It's funny how she talked Abraham into not listening to God. You have to believe it's God's fault I can't have any kids, so you must do this. So she robbed Abraham of that commandment that promise God gave him to put in his heart. He supposed to guard and protect it and keep it. She robbed him of it. And it's not all her fault because he probably didn't believe. I don't believe he believed too much anyway in it. So whatever doubts he had or whatever way he had, she just helped pull it out. Then she's blaming him. This is your fault. But she brought him the woman. She agreed to this. I gave my hand into your bosom. My handmaid into your bosom. And when she saw that she conceived, it was despised in her eyes. The Lord, then watch this show you how people is when they're in pride. When people are selfishness and pride, when stuff blow up in their face, they point the finger. I had a teaching on this about blaming people about pride. The first thing about pride, when pride is really deep, they blame people. They're selfish. So if you give somebody something, you shouldn't throw it in their face. Well, look at her. She's doing all the signs of a selfish person. When a selfish person gives you something, they always want to take it back. So when something you don't do what they want, I'm taking it back. A controlling person. I gave you something, I'm taking it back. That's a selfish person, a controlling person. First time you start seeing a person that's selfish and controlling when you give them something and they want to take it back from you when you don't do what they want. Now you don't want, give it back. Sarah said to Abraham, this is your fault. I gave you my handmaid into your bosom. Now listen, I gave you something. Now it's your fault. Now, what did I do but what you told me to do with it? What, he's supposed to do it and not like it or something? Were he supposed to do it and not like it? And that's what she mad about, or whatever it is. She's a woman. She should know what's going to happen, what can possibly happen. She should know that when you go against God, she tried to tell Abraham that God himself is his fault. You know, she always blames somebody. She said, it's God's fault I can't have any kids. She pointed the finger at God. It's his fault I can't have any kids. When God told Abraham, it's going to come from her. It's going to come from your body. But she pointed the finger. No, it's his fault. It ain't going to come from me. Now she blaming Abraham. She pointing the finger again. It's your fault, Abraham. But Abraham said to Sarah, behold, your maid is, he said, your maid is your hand. Now, that's in this translation, but trying to say that's your handmaid. Do to her whatever is good in your eyes, whatever's functional. Do whatever is right. She's not my maid, she's yours. I just did what you said. You had agreement with her. I'm just following the agreement. But look, he said, do to her what you feel is right, so that's your handmaid. Now, why is Abraham telling her to do this? Now, Abraham wrong for telling her to do to her handmaid what you want. Why? Because it's in all fairness. Sarah, you made an agreement with this woman. You made this agreement, we all did. You made it with her and you came to me and we did it. Now you mad at the woman because you feel it's something more between the woman. She's supposed to be my wife. I'm laying with her every night. What you expect? She may have some feelings there. What you expect going on? Now, Abraham say, okay, because he wanted this shut up. That's how you can tell when you got a woman that's bossy and controlling. When you listen to a man that deal with a woman that's bossy controlling, they always got an attitude, always going off. One thing I know about men like this is that they always want to shut up. They're starting to and they like, oh, okay, yeah, do it. I don't want to hear it. That's why you hear these men say all the time, you want to marry to work, do what the woman says. I say, boy, that's the worst thing you can do. But do whatever the woman says. That's how marriage works. Whatever Abraham doing, do whatever you want to her. It's yours. Now what's going to happen here? Now he said this in this translation: do to her whatever good in your eyes. See, that's not a good thing. Whatever good's in your eyes. Well, that's not good because in Sarah's eyes right now, she is mad because she didn't betray God. She didn't got Abraham to help him betray God. And now she's being punished, and she let this woman now she let another woman into her life, into this situation, and then the woman got the baby, and Abraham gonna be stuck on the baby and the woman, and there's some things that she's seeing that Abraham don't see, because you know how a person, when a person's jealous, they're always watching, and they start to be delusional. They start to see things that are not even there. So she's really seeing things. If Hugo walk by, Abraham walk by somewhere, she's looking. She sees them, oh, they just getting married, they leaving me. She's seeing all these things. So she's really furious. I'm not gonna be no handmaid. She ain't gonna push me out. See, she's saying a whole lot of stuff she's dealing with here. So he's telling her, in your eyes, deal with it. So watch what Sarah do. He says Sarah dealt harshly with her, and she fled from her face. So what did Sarah do to this woman? Did she talk to her this mean? Sarah, who knows what Sarah did to this woman? It says she dealt with her harshly. And then say the angel of the Lord found her by a fountain of water in the wilderness, by the fountain in the, it's talking about how he found it. Then it said that he said to her, here goes Sarah handmaid, where did you come from? Now the angel's going to tell her, God seen your misery. Now, God told her to go back and be submissive under the woman. But God told her that I see your misery. See, I see your affliction. See, I see that you wasn't in the wrong because you was a servant. You're a slave. You got to do whatever they tell you to do. It ain't your fault. Sarah took you, told you that, brought you there, didn't get mad at you because of, it ain't your fault. But God told her this. This was very interesting. The angel of the Lord said to her, return to your mistress and submit yourself under her hands. Then the angel of the Lord said to her, I will greatly multiply your seed. Your seed. Now, you notice that there's no S on it. Your seed, that they will not be numbered for multitude. Now I will greatly multiply your seed, that they will not be numbered for multitude. Now we can go to another translation of that. If y'all don't mind, you can stand by real quick. Let's go to King James. And the angel of the Lord said to her, I will multiply your seed exceedingly, that it shall not be numbered for multitude. And the angel of the Lord said to her, behold, you are with child and shall bear a son, and shall call him Ishmael, because the Lord has heard your affliction. The Lord has heard your affliction. Now, God gave her a covenant. He gave her a covenant here. He gave her a promise, a covenant. What is the promise? Here's the covenant. And the angel of the Lord said to her, return to your mistress and submit yourself under her hand. And the angel said to the angel of the Lord said to her, I will multiply your seed exceedingly, that it shall not be numbered for multitude. And the angel of the Lord said to her, behold, you are with a child, bearing a son. And God even gave him a name. You shall name him Ishmael, because the Lord has heard your affliction. And he will be a wild man. His hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him. He shall dwell in the presence of all his brothers. He shall remain in the presence of all his brothers. And she called the name of the Lord that spoke to her, you, God, see me. For she said, have I also here looked after him that see me? So what is she saying? God see me. He recognized me, and she recognized him. Have I also here looked after him that sees me? Now God gave this woman a promise, a covenant. He's telling her, I'm going to multiply your seed. He put promises in her. It's time for her to cover herself now. She got to trust in this. She got to trust in this. She got to protect this now. This is really powerful. He made a covenant with her and Ishmael. People got to pay attention to that. He made a covenant with her and Ishmael. Right there. He even told her how it's going to turn out. He's going to be a wild man. Now you notice that, like I said, you notice God did this. God made a covenant even with her. He made a covenant with her. That's amazing. Now, I'm going to show you something here to show you how she had to guard and protect that. Now, what I want you to see is that we go to Genesis 17, and when Abraham was 90 years old and 99, the Lord appeared to Abraham and said to him, I am Almighty God. Walk before me. Have faith. Walk before me and be you perfect. That's in the King James. Be you perfect. In American King James. The Hebrew says, God said, when Abraham was 99 years old, now that's 13 years later. That means 13 years he didn't hear from God. When Abraham was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to Abraham and said to him, I am God Almighty. Walk before me and be blameless. Now, why is God coming to Abraham like that? Because he got a baby out of, not saying out of wedlock, because like I said, he ain't got it out of wedlock. He slept with a woman. He's a wife. But you done went and did something that's not part of my plan because you didn't listen to me. You listened to your wife. So what is God going to tell him? Walk before me blameless. Blameless means humble. They saying perfect in the King James. It means humble. Walk before me humble. I will make my covenant between me and you, and will multiply you exceedingly. Abraham fell on his face, and so he fell on his face when God talked with him, saying, as for me, behold, my covenant is with you. You will be the father of multitudes of nations. Now Abraham fell on his face laughing. He fell on his face laughing at God. God also goes forward to say this much. God goes to 7th verse. I will establish my covenant between me and you and your seed after you throughout their generations for an everlasting covenant, to be a God to you and to your seed after you. That seed is just no S. Your seed after you. And I will give to you and to your seed after you the land where you are traveling, all the land of Canaan for an everlasting possession. I will be their God. God said to Abraham, as for you, you will keep my covenant. You and your seed. Your seed. Jesus is keeping his covenant. Your seed after you throughout their generations. This is my covenant which you shall keep. Keep means what? To guard and protect. This is my covenant you should keep and protect. This is what I promise you. This is what you keep. And you must keep this and protect it. Between me and you and your seed after you. Every male among you shall be circumcised. Go on to that. Now, what I want you to understand is that circumcision of the spirit. God says circumcision of the heart. Let's go to Jeremiah 4:4 to knock that out. We go to Jeremiah 4:4. God said in Jeremiah 4:4, circumcise yourself to the Lord and take away the foreskins of your heart, you man of Judah. Who's from Judah? We are from Judah. And inhabitants of Jerusalem. Lest my wrath goes forth like fire and burn, so that none can quench it because of the evil of your doings. Ain't no quenching that hellfire. Now, what is God saying here is very interesting. What God's saying here. God is showing you in this situation that when he gives you his promise, his covenant, you have to guard it and protect it. You can't let no one say anything different. You can't let a situation happen. You can't let nothing. I'm going to show you what I mean. We're going to end this in this teaching of this portion. We're going to end this in this teaching, this portion. I'm going to just go ahead and we're going to go into the Catholic. I was in the Hebrew and the King James, but I want you to see we're in the Catholic, the NRSV in the Catholic edition. We always love to go back. God always wants us to go back to the Catholic. He always wanted to go back there. And what I want you to see is this is the story. This is the story, and I just want you to know what the story is. It's the story between Jacob when he met Rachel. Now, the thing with Jacob and Rachel, and we're going to go through this story. The thing with Jacob and Rachel was very interesting. Is that in the story, is that Jacob will have the promises of God. God gave Jacob the same promise that he gave Abraham. Now how did Jacob protect and guard it? He's supposed to protect this and guard this with everything. But what ended up happening, he seen something that was so powerful and brutal than he can get on his own. He fell into a woman, he came into the contact of a woman which was his cousin named Rachel. Rachel was like one of the hottest things that's around, one of the finest women you can find. The way the Bible puts it. It wouldn't put it that she was just a pretty woman. It put she was filled out. I mean, she was a woman that she was built. Everything. You name it, she had it. But what she didn't have was a love for God. She didn't have a love for God. But she had an ego too. Ego that went around with it. Now, let's start to see some of the things. I want us to see some of the things about this woman. Because see, a lot of times we don't understand who these people are. Anyway, you got to look at the characters. God put these people in here for a certain, it's character flaws. And we can't put people on pedestals. We have to look at the character flaws. We have to look at the character flaws in these people. So we're going to look at some of the flaws. Now, she was a pretty woman, and she was all about herself. She made, and you look at the story, Rachel was making Jacob do whatever she wanted. And so therefore, he wanted Rachel so bad that he sold himself as a servant. He sold himself as a servant to his uncle. And so his uncle was using him because he had the blessings and the promises of God. And so God had everything he touched, God multiplied. God kept that blessing on him, but yet he let the man take advantage of him because he was obsessed with the daughter. He was so obsessed with the daughter, he would let her do whatever she wanted. She was bringing women to him to make babies because she couldn't make them, and he was doing it. Now that's something that we also know that's part of his problem as well. We can't sit there and act like he didn't have a lust problem, because my wife is just not going to be bringing in women, strange women that I don't know, just going to be bringing these strange women in my house and say, just lie with this woman, unprotected, just like unprotected, lie with this woman and make babies. In this day and age, that would be, I mean, for one, what kind of wife you have to be lining up women to come in your house? Slaves, you have 5, 10 slaves that come in the house and they all sleep with my husband so I can make more babies than the other wife. What was going on in this household that Jacob was in? He was in a place that was full of all kind of confusion. The household gods. It said that Rachel kept trying to steal the household gods. Why was she trying to take the household gods when God already gave the word to Jacob? Jacob told her, if it weren't for God, I would be left with nothing. God multiplied everything. He told me what to do. I did it. And through God's economy and to what God blessing, I'm leaving this place with more than what I came, with 2 companies. But what did Rachel do? She didn't trust in God, so what was she was trying to do? She didn't trust in God, so what she was trying to do was take the family household gods. The same household gods that her daddy had. And everybody know your household God is going to be who you are. So therefore, what is the daddy worship of? He's rich, he's greedy, he's deceiving. That sounds like the devil traits to me. Now I'm going to show you what kind of person, how big of an ego Rachel had. She had so much ego that even when she won something, when she at the top of the food chain, she's still hard on everybody else that's at the bottom. Okay, we're gonna go to Genesis 29. I mean, not Genesis 29, Genesis 30, verse 14. Now watch how this is. In the days of the wheat harvest, Reuben went and found some mandrakes in the field and brought them to his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, please give me some of your son mandrakes. But she said she told her, give me some of your son mandrakes. But she said to her, it is a small matter that you have taken away my husband. Would you take away my son mandrakes also? Rachel said, this is what Rachel told her when she said, buy some fruit. Rachel said, then he made, Rachel told this, then he may lie with you tonight for your son mandrakes. So she pimped out Jacob. Now, I'm in the Catholic version, so it's a little bit different. It's not too much different. I'm saying the way they got it, the sentences. Then he may lie with you tonight for your son mandrakes. So she's pimping out him over fruit. Meaning that, oh, you will not let him, you're supposed to be sharing him. She's supposed to be sharing him. A man got 2 wives. You're supposed to spend time with her. This is what God said. God said, if you take a second wife, you have to treat her the way you treated the first one. Well, it's hard for him to do that when he got a wife that is, a wife that she's not going to let him see her. Because I'm in control. I run him. Now, let's find out how much she run him. She run him so much, she pimping him out over fruit. See, it's something I want, so I'll let him come lay with you tonight because it's something I want. Now, let's see what Jacob says about this. Because how are you going to pimp me out? Let's see what he says about this. My question is why he ain't doing what God would say and spend time with the other wife too. Other wives, whatever. Well, he's not doing that because he's stuck on this one. He just having his cake and eat too. Now, what do Jacob says about this when his wife's going to just pimp you out like you just a hooker? Well, let's see what he says. When Jacob came from the field in the evening, Leah went out to meet him and said, you must come in to me, for I have hired you with my son mandrakes. So he come out there and she's telling him, oh, you got to lay with me because I made a deal. I mean, I bought you. You hired. So he laid with her that night. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. This woman has such a pull over him that she can pimp him out when she wanted to. She can pimp him out. She can pimp him out. Whenever she wanted to, hey, you need to be over here, get over there. So what's happening to Jacob? Jacob is having all kind of problems because her daddy's doing the same thing. Her daddy knows, as long as I can control Rachel. Why? Because see, Rachel don't want to leave that place because she don't want to have nothing. When they left that place, she's still trying to take household gods and items. He ain't give us no inheritance. I'm getting something because I deserve something. That's her mentality, like her dad. They used Jacob so bad. Rachel daddy using Jacob so bad, he ain't got no respect for Jacob. Because Jacob, you know what? Because he knows Jacob got a God that is powerful. But he knows Jacob is a dummy. And I would say he's a dummy. He's a dummy that's full of lust. And every time his wife would throw, his wife know that too. Rachel knew if I throw another woman, I throw another slave at him, he gonna sleep with her because that's what he is. He's a weak man. He was a weak man. He was. And if you go to Esau, Isaac loved Esau because Esau was a hunter. He was a warrior. He was a man's man. And Esau was weak to him. He was a mama's boy, weak. And it carried over. It carried over until that weakness that he had carried over to his behavior. So he going into this place, his uncle said, oh, he's weak. He's a good little weak little mama's boy. He took advantage of him. He robbed him so much to the point where even when God gave Jacob some backbone. See, God was trying to show him, you got to have some backbone here. And God went to him and put a dream into Rachel and them daddy and let Rachel daddy them know, I'm not one to play with. You better not talk to him a certain way. You better not treat him this way. See, I'm not no dummy and I'm not no weak person like Jacob is. Jacob didn't do anything until he took enough. Now, God promised him all these things. Why he didn't already capitalize on them? Because he didn't hold on to the commandments. He got so captivated and so caught into this girl looks that her daddy took advantage of her. She took advantage of him. And therefore, I'm trying to tell people now, it's people that got so caught into these houses, so caught into these cars, these houses, these objects. Some people are so caught into these women, these men. You're so captivated to the point of that, you know what? God said, my promises are here. And you saying, yeah, whatever. I do whatever to get that. And you're being pimped out and used and taken advantage of. Because you have supposed to guard this and keep and protect this, and you didn't allow things to come in. You was not being alert. You was being it's like a shepherd. It's like if a wolf can come along and dress up like a woman. And you got like all these wolves sitting out there, and the wolves know the shepherd gonna kill him if he catch him. So a wolf dress up like a pretty woman, and the shepherd come over there and flirt with the shepherd, and he go run in the tent. Meanwhile, he won't want to run in the tent. The wolf, the woman tell him, no, I don't feel comfortable doing it here. Why don't you go over here? And you know, like a little horny shepherd, she say, let's go way over here. I like to go walk way over here. He go walk out 1 mile and 2. But what about the sheep? He ain't thinking about the sheep. He thinking about, man, look at this. She walked him way out there. He went lay down her in the field. Couple miles away. He'll do it. He did it. And meanwhile, he's on to doing all this. She making him not think about anything. Then he come back and find out all his sheep has been destroyed. They all tore to pieces. Because while that wolf was pulling him away, the rest of the sheep was getting tore undefenseless. There's no one to defend them. This is why this is so serious when it comes to man of God. Man of God must understand they must control their lust. Because you see what happened to Jimmy Swagger. You see what happened to a lot of these other men of God. They came out doing strong things. The devil is trying to throw Rachels at you. He's chunking at Rachels, and he's chunking the Rachels at you. And what's happening is you run into, ooh, who this woman in church? I don't know what about her, and you keep on. And he's using them to pull you because they got to take you out. You the leader. He's doing the same thing with Jacob. Jacob got the promise of God. He's walking around with the staff. You walking around with the promise of God in your hands. You pretty much, God, you have the seed that rules the whole entire world. And you're tripping over some pretty little girl. And getting pimped out over a pretty little girl and some slave girls. You letting the man control you, the devil dictate everything you do because you gain control of your lust. And that's what was going on in that whole story. Ain't no way in the world a man of God should have someone just bringing women, he just sleeping with all these women to make a contest. That don't make sense. But like I told you before, he had weaknesses, and the devil took advantage of the weaknesses. Rachel took advantage of him, and her daddy took advantage of his weaknesses. They let him have them women. You know, he didn't care he had the daughter, the first daughter. He didn't care. The daddy was pimping the daughters out. He didn't care about them. And the same thing, just like daddy, like daughter, Rachel was pimping him out. So we're going to end the teaching of this. And I want you to understand, I'm sure we're going to have more come along later on, more on this subject of believing in God. But this is Courtney Jones, and I'm out.